am I not visible? What's going on? Let's click that. Let's click that. There's that. Alrighty, Steve here, the retired hobby tech guy here in Korea. And what we ended up doing is apologize for the light. I don't have professional lighting, but today, this morning, we ended up printing the remainder of the Millennium Falcon wall mount. The first part that we ended up doing was this. Isn't that exciting? A little box, and this is the wall mount. So you got a couple of little notches there, so you can hang this on the wall. But the more interesting part is this here. Let's get this off of here. So this is kind of like a book nook. It ends up that this is the Millennium Falcon. So yeah, that looks kind of cool. And we got a little TIE Fighter stuff here on the side. We've got a little Death Star that we got, and the details on this look pretty wild. This took like just over 7 hours to print this. So at a 0.61 layer height, and yeah, looks pretty good, pretty good. I mean, it's got layer lines are a little noticeable. We got some stringing, and we got some supports that were just crazy regular supports, and just insane how this 3D printing stuff works. But yeah, I think this is going to make up a pretty cool looking book nook. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and we will move you all around here, and then what we'll end up doing is taking off the supports. So I'll just show you what we got. So there is the little Death Star. I put brims on all this. I probably didn't need to, but I wasn't really paying attention. So we'll have to get the edger out, but you can see the details on that, which is pretty good. And then let's see, is this going to come off? Yeah, I think it will. Yay! And then we got some little TIE Fighter dudes that we have, that these will come apart. Yeah, I shouldn't have put the brims on here. I mean, not really necessary, because I end up using some glue stick on here to get everything done. But you know what they say, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So let's see if we can get you into there, so we can see little details here. Yeah, kind of cool little thing. So we got that. We got this little one, little miniature. Ooh, it's just really, really thin. We have minor stringing, so I have to get to that. So tiny little piece there, and you see the layer lines on this. I'll probably go over this with some paint and primer, filler and primer paint, so that way it'll smooth it out a little bit. You can really see those layer lines on there. And then the big one is going to be this one here. Boom. And there you can see all the details on that. I think this came out pretty good, and all of these are supports. So we'll see how this goes. And my support Z distance is 0.264, I think it is. So those come out pretty good. It's going to be you have to do some little, ooh, that one came off really nice. Look at that. I like it. And that 0.264 on the Z height just makes these supports, I mean, it gives the support, it's the distance between the model and the support. So, which is wild because you'd think you'd need to have something touching, but you don't. So it ends up, and then the distance, there's also the XY distance. So the distance from the model to the support, I have that set at 0.6. So that way there's no chance of, you can see that little space between the support and the model right there. That's the distance. So that way nothing touches the model. Just take that off of there, which is so cool. And again, just some wild stuff. And the problem with the 3D printer is you've got so much to print. And look at that. The details on that are pretty cool. Another thing I was thinking about doing with this is maybe drill. Of course, this is going to be interesting because there's an infill in here. So you have the bottom here, and then there's an infill pattern, a gyroid infill pattern. And what I was thinking about doing is getting a drill bit and then like drilling through, like straight through, and then have it come out the back here. And what I would end up doing is putting some LED lights in there. So I'm contemplating that. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know if I'll do that or not. It'd be kind of cool that, like in those two cannons right there, drill through there and then put a LED light or something in there. That would look hot. So for this piece, ooh, look at that, look at that, look at that. Isn't that amazing? I was worried about that. So we got a little bit of stringing, a little deformation there. So maybe I need to reduce my top Z distance a bit. So maybe 0.26, but you're not going to be able to see that once it's in the box. So basically what we're looking at is, I think it's going to be like this. And so we'll have that. And I think the Death Star goes in like so. And then that guy goes there. I'll kind of go like that. So yeah, that'll be a cool little book nook or wall hanger, either way. So I think that came out really good. And like I said, once I end up doing some, do a little bit of trimming on this, and then do some filler, and which I have, which is, what do I got? It is paint and primer. So I can do some paint and primer like this, or I also have some gray. Got enamel protected. I don't know. I got a can of that somewhere. but that's going to end up being some cool stuff. So yeah, pretty wild. Looking forward to that. And the Millennium Falcon. excuse me. But yeah, this is going to be a cool little project to end up painting, and I think I will do that filler primer stuff because you got some of those layer lines in there. But really, I mean, it's not that bad. Pretty sure you could probably paint this up and you wouldn't have any problems with it because it's going to be hanging on a wall, and you know, it's going to be on the side of my bookcase in my room over there. So, but yeah, maybe put in some LED lights. So I don't know, we'll have to look into that and see. And what would be nice is to have the case with a little bit deeper, not so this sinks down even more, but so that you could put some batteries in here. So maybe a little bit of a battery thing going on, and then you could have like a switch that's kind of a little detailed and then involved. And I got, as if I don't have enough projects going on. Yeah, that's never the case. But yeah, that is going to be kind of wild. So definitely looking forward to that. And this 3D printing thing is definitely cool stuff. So yeah, this is what I end up doing a lot of my time when I'm not in the gym. End up doing the 3D printing stuff, and going to be expanding. I actually changed some of the layout here. This is all going to stay the same. I'm thinking about getting a more permanent cabinet, which has a nicer top, about 130 centimeters, and then it has drawers and some shelf space down underneath. It looks really nice since we decided to stay in this apartment. We bought it, we thought we were going to rent it out and then downsize and go to a 3-bedroom, so that way we can make money on this. But I think we like the space. Going from a 4-bedroom to a 3-bedroom, which like maybe 10 by 10 rooms, probably I'd be super cramped with my with my hobby stuff. So and the wife likes her room, she's got her hobby room. It's just the size that we want. So we decided to stay here, and if we do buy another apartment, we'll rent that one out. It'll be a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. So we can fund our little activities that we got going on here in Korea. But with that, yeah, I kind of moved some stuff around. So if you can see here, this is the resin printer that we got going. And it's a Saturn III Ultra, which has its own little case and everything. And the cool thing is that this has actually got power, and has lights in there, has a fan. It's some pretty cool stuff. So I still do some resin printing. Excuse me. And then this over here is the wash station, the cure station, and we'll have some area here because I know I got a ton of paint stuff here. But we moved all this stuff. We moved the airbrush station into this side room over here. So we'll take a look at that. But this will free up area for processing and stuff like that, which should be pretty good as far as the resin printing and maybe some other little stuff. I'm going to try to come up with some shelves in there for all of the paint, because the airbrush paint and the inks and stuff like that, and that's where this comes into play. So we moved this. With this here. So you can end up seeing that here we have our airbrush station. And so this is going to be, oh shoot, let's just go ahead and take it out here. Let's kind of show you. So this is the airbrush station, and we're getting everything set up. It's a little humid in here, but there's no, it's not really well insulated, and I need to get a better job on sealing all this up. I'll print up some stuff. but be able to vent this stuff out and have the paint station here, which you can see. So we got that going on. And then what I want to end up doing is kind of putting some type of hanging shelf unit for all of the paints that we're talking about over there. So yeah, going through a bunch of stuff, and we still got some storage room over there. So, but yeah, that's going to be the paint station area, and again, all those paints there. Sorry, I know you're feeling seasick. Apologize. It is what it is. But anyway, that's what we got going on. Doing 3D printing stuff. Still got this big project that I'm doing here, which is this baby. This is kind of wild. Bertha says, you definitely have a bunch of wall space for storage. That paintbrush station looks sweet. Yeah, it's pretty nice. It works pretty good. This is a big project that I'm doing for my daughter. And come on, get in there. Oh, we still need to do some gluing on this. But this is basically a big Egyptian Book of the Dead piece. So this has got some pretty cool stuff on it, and it'll have a locking mechanism. So whenever you turn or twist this, it has some gears back here, and it has some locks that'll close the book. And so yeah, that'll be pretty good. But I'm woefully deficient in getting this done, and I don't know if I'm going to paint that or not. That's for somebody else, so we'll see how that goes. But other than that, yeah, that's what we got going on. Fun stuff here in Korea. Doing more printing and doing stuff like that. Also, if you're into Warhammer 40,000, Galactic Armory has some files for 3D printing. Mostly they do helmets. They've got some armor stuff. And on their Patreon, if you join, I don't know, 12 or 15 bucks a month, you can get access to all of their files, their STL files, and you can print out some pretty cool stuff. But if you're a Warhammer 40K fan, which that's kind of the servo guy, and then we got a chaplain's helmet, little mini chaplain's helmet I wanted to print out. But Galactic Armory ended up getting a cease and desist letter from Games Workshop, which makes Warhammer 40,000. So in case you didn't know, Games Workshop has been on a tirade of punishing fan art and people that produce files and things like that. It's gone so far to the point of even they'll do cease and desist. They're taking people to court, suing them, which is insane. From they're overseas in England, I think, and then they're using a Florida court. They're using the state of Florida to file their lawsuits because there's some weird thing going on that is beneficial to them and not anybody else. But they're like suing people using the word Citadel or Warhammer, or offering things. People have had their Etsy shops shut down because they said, well, this is for a Warhammer paint, whatever thing. It's not copyright infringement. Now, there are people that do copyright infringement, that I'm not going to lie. But then you also have a lot of people that do fan art. And when you punish the people that are making fan art, it even goes so far as to punish people that are making video content of Warhammer 40K. So in other words, you have people that are making kind of like the Star Wars movies. You got fan-made Star Wars movies and stuff like that, and shows. Star Wars doesn't care, and the Star Wars fan base is huge, and they stick to canon and so on and so forth. Imagine if Star Wars, George Lucas and company and whatever, ended up suing people that made fan content, and files for, droids and stormtroopers and Darth Vader and, Mando and all of those things. suing those people for making that content or making cosplay items or selling, you know, the STL files for the things that they made based off of the Star Wars universe, they would lose a lot of fans. Unfortunately, Games Workshop has turned into a for-profit. We have to, you know, I think they're publicly traded now, so they have investors and they have to make money. And so it's gone corporate. And it's gone corporate in the worst way, in the fact that they're suing a ton of people, tons and tons of people. And basically, they have so much money that they can threaten to sue, and most people won't go to court. So they're just going to cease and desist, and they can't do anything. So Galactic Armory is one of those people. They're not being sued, but they've been given a cease and desist. So if you like the Warhammer helmets and some of the armor for Warhammer, I don't know if they have any full suits of Warhammer, but they have the helmets, they have the chainsaws, they have some other stuff that they put out, which is incredible work. And that has really drawn a lot of people into Games Workshop and into 40K. So they're kind of biting the hands that feeds them. And yeah, it's very unfortunate. But at the end of this month, on their Patreon, you can still get all of these Warhammer items, the files and everything. I just ended up joining. I was kind of like, I'm going to wait a little bit. There's a suit of armor that I wanted to do, because I want to do one big cosplay armor. That's on my bucket list. Maybe two, but at least one big cosplay armor. And I was going to go to their Patreon and join anyway. But when I saw that they said, hey, we got a cease and desist for the month of July, through remainder of July, if you join, it's like 12 or 15, I think it was $15. It was the highest tier one. You can download all of their stuff, which includes all their Warhammer stuff on Patreon. So look up Galactic Armory on Patreon and you can find them. They also have Galactic Armory website, either .com or .net or whatever. But they make some really cool stuff. So I jumped on that, downloaded all of that stuff, because at the end of July, all of that stuff is going away. And unfortunately, Games Workshop is just going on a tirade of getting creators that make products. Of course, they're making money because they're spending the time and the energy with Blender and graphics and all of this stuff and testing out the settings and the printings. Yeah, they make money, but then that fuels people to go to Games Workshop and to get involved in Warhammer 40K. So it's kind of and I know there's copyright infringement and, you know, intellectual property comes into play with all this, but you know, you see the same thing with Star Wars, but you don't see Star Wars suing people and saying, hey, this is a copyright infringement against Star Wars, so they're taking videos down off of YouTube of fan-made content and online, wherever it can be found. That would be like Star Wars suing people for writing books on the Star Wars, you know, because there's tons and millions of books on Star Wars universe. It is what it is, but so that kind of builds the community. And I think, unfortunately, with Games Workshop, it's destroying the community, and really, I don't know, it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, I rant on too much. But with that said, I think this is going to be a cool little, again, a cool little thing that we got here that will hang on the wall. And I'll have to look at some pictures and see how this is supposed to be painted up. It'll be interesting to try to do this as if I didn't have enough to do already. But you see some cool stuff, you print it out, and you have some fun. And since I'm retired and I'm here in Korea and life is kind of limited at times, this is what I put myself into besides some of the other stuff. So anyway, that's what we got going on. Printed this out. The box took like two hours, I think it was, 2 hours and some change. And then the Millennium Falcon, again, printed at 0.16 millimeter height, ended up being just over 7 hours. So I started last night. Early evening, it finished about 10:30, 11 o'clock. I just let it print and run, and then I woke up and boom, here we are. So it's kind of cool to see how the K2 Plus is working out pretty good. So I'll put in the description box. I have an affiliate link. If you like the K2 Plus, you can click on the link. I haven't got anybody to buy the K2 Plus or use my link, so I don't really care. What would be better is if you like and subscribe to my channel. That would go further than buying the link for the K2 Plus. So don't even buy. I'm not even going to put the link for the K2 Plus for my affiliate. Just like and subscribe. Let's just do that. If you want to do me a solid based off of some of my other videos, or if you like my content, you can always buy me a coffee, and there's that. So yeah, that's what we got going on. Let's see, we got a question that says, how is the graphite bed working? Graphite bed has been working great. It is definitely flat. Trying to level the K2 Plus with the stock bed, I think their variance is like 2 millimeters, a variance of plus or minus 2 millimeters. It's still printed out good, but with the R3 graphite bed for the K2 Plus, I got it down to 0.23 or something like that. And I still need to do more leveling. The other thing I need to do is I found out that once you get it set, I need to have something that will, I don't want to do like Loctite, but I need something, and it came with some springs for the knobs underneath. I might have to put those in. We'll see how that goes, to keep some tension on there, because I'm finding a little bit of the knobs are kind of like moving around or whatever. So I've got to re-level this and do some further leveling, but it's a big difference. And so when the K2 Plus prints before print, it does a calibration, which, let me see if I can find it, as I'm digging in the trash. Yeah, I can't, forget it. But it prints a calibration on the left side of the build plate area. And with that, I've noticed it's a lot better. And then it goes to the right side and it'll do another test calibration for like flow or whatever. Always seem to have problems on that, but those have been coming out really well. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with the R3. Is it needed? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's not required. But you could go through and re-level your K2 Plus by using the knobs. Just search Google for K2 Plus leveling, and it'll show you how to level it with the knobs, and you just run the calibration, get the bed mesh off of fluid, which is your IP address with, what is it, the colon, the colon, and then 4408, and that'll come up in your browser as long as you're on the same network. And then you can run calibration, you can see your bed mesh, make some adjustments, going back and forth, and eventually you can get that leveling down there pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with it. I just needed to get off my butt and do more leveling. So, but even then, it's significantly better than what it was before. You know, I got it down, it was like 0.9696, and then doing some leveling on my own, on the stock bed, it ended up getting me, I think, 0.846 or something like that. I was able to drop it down, or 8.2 or something, and that was the best I could get it. So with that, you don't have to get the R3 bed, because there's a number of things you could end up doing. You could always use tape, which is something that you could end up doing. So you have this cramped on tape that you could end up doing the high spots or the low spots and making them high and stuff like that. Somebody left a comment and I just didn't catch it. Oh no. Oh no. Let's see if we can look. What is this button here? I don't know, but sorry about that. I just missed your message. But you can build up the low areas with the tape. Other people will use aluminum tape that is used for HVAC repair. Just make sure it's really smooth and there's no wrinkles in it. You can build up those low areas and essentially try to make everything flat. Says, I use aluminum tape to level the stock bed, have amazing results. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you don't feel like you need to get the R3 bed. I'm just upgrading it for the sake of upgrading it. You know, I'm retired, I need stuff to do. So yeah, it's kind of like put an aftermarket stereo in your car. Car stereo stock works great, but yeah, so there's that. But yeah, definitely a lot better in my opinion. And I could have done the same thing with tape. I was thinking about doing that with the R3 bed. You can do the leveling, and then they also give you like what is it, sanding sponge, you know, with like the sandpaper sponge, and you could, you know, do some high areas. I wouldn't suggest doing that until you get it really leveled, and even then, as I've noticed, some of the knobs have kind of backed off, so my leveling has kind of gone out, which I did notice on the stock bed as well. It would lose level, so I think it needs some springs or something like that. You know, I wish maybe some lock washers or something to be able to provide that tension to keep those knobs in place once you get it leveled. So that comes into play. So yeah, it's interesting things with the K2 Plus. I've got, I don't know, maybe 700-800 hours on it so far. The last time was a few months ago, or a month and a half ago, was about 500 plus hours or something, about a month ago. So I'm thinking I've done a number of other prints, so probably around 600 plus hours on this, and I'm pretty happy, pretty happy. CFS has been working good. This has been working good. Had a few clogs earlier on where I had to replace a nozzle, but that stemmed from not dialing in my filament. So yeah, you can use the stock settings. That'll get you on the board in regards to your filament, the recommended settings from Creality. Even general settings for PLA or whatever you're printing will be okay, but really you need to dial in your filament. Just like you need to dial in your resin printer with the resin that you're using, same thing applies with FDM printing, is that take the time to do it. You know, go through all of the calibrations for your filaments, you know, the flow rate, the this, the that, the speed, you know, VFA, whatever it is, smoothness. I mean, do all the little calculations and everything, and you'll find flow rate and that. It says, I'm also right around 900 hours. Same experience too. Great machine, yeah. And I was nervous because of the K1. I almost ordered the K1, but then I saw the problem with, it said an all metal extruder. And then it turned out the reviewers that Creality gave that machine to opened up and said, yeah, this isn't all metal. So they lied. And they said, oh, you're going to get 10,000 clog-free hours. And it's like, well, that was based on you saying it was all metal, and now it's not. So where'd you get the number from? You know, and how did you make that claim? What is it based upon? And since it's not all metal, you know, so I backed off from the K1, was it K1 Max or whatever it was. I said, nope, I'm not going to do that. And I kind of waited. I was like, let me do Bambu. But then the problem with Bambu popped up with their log files, and oh, we're not going to send this information to our servers. And lo and behold, Grant from 3D Musketeers and his buddies found out that, yeah, they send that and a hell of a lot more. So Bambu lied. So that put a bad taste in my mouth, and they locked up their system. So, which I kind of figured they were going to do. Working in industrial electronics and things like that, I've got a little bit of background. So yeah, I saw what was coming, and I don't agree with it. But it is what it is. I mean, they're great printers. So I took the gamble on the K2 Plus, and everything's worked out great. I think the biggest problem with the K2 Plus is that you get the combo, and that box weighs just over 100 pounds, and the box and how it's handled during shipping, I think that's why you see a lot of people with problems, is because the boxes don't get handled correctly. You know, think about it, UPS, whoever does your delivery, DHS guy or gal, it's usually one person. So it says, I did the same, ordered my Bambu, they came out with that software, canceled my order, bought the K2. Oh wow. Yeah, I was gonna wait for the H2D, but then Bambu did their thing because I wanted a larger build area, you know, go big or go home, not gigastorm big. But I'm glad that I got the K2 Plus because the H2D was like, you know, they had the laser, they had you know, the paper cutter, the pen plotter, all of that stuff. It's just stuff that nobody asked for. They tried to be X2L. So, and it's just like, and I'm pretty sure Bambu is going to come out with a H2D standard or whatever they want to call it. So it'll have a single head. You'll be able to take advantage of probably the full build area, which you can't with the H2D. And I don't know, it just, yeah, I'm happy with the K2 Plus. But I think the majority of the problems that stem are from poor handling with the K2 Plus. Let's see. The combos should have come in at least 2 boxes. It was way too heavy for something this fragile. Yeah, and even then, when this is empty, it's not that heavy, you know, honestly. But still, you're looking at the packaging, and I thought, well, maybe the packaging is deficient. But really, the packaging is top notch. So what that tells me, and I used to work at a UPS warehouse, so I've seen how drivers and the people at the warehouses that fill the trucks and all of that stuff, I've seen big, huge boxes and heavy items being rolled over, you know, when it clearly says this end up or careful or whatever. I've seen people drop off stuff at my house that was heavy that just throw it on, you know, and if you got somebody, I mean, seriously, let me show you. So that's the box for the K2 Plus. So that's a significantly sized box. And at over 100 pounds, you know, you've got, I think you've got, and everything came in this. So it's got some a handle on that side, a handle on the other side. But this was a bear for me to pick up, and let alone the delivery guy that dropped this off. But the box is in immaculate condition, except for a little top here, which is a little dirty. But this is the best conditioned box of anything that I've ever got delivered, and it's because I'm in Korea. So you might be asking, you know, well, what do you mean? Here in Korea, delivery drivers take pride in their work, and so they do the same in Japan as well, because they're contracted out, and so kind of like subcontracted out. And there's a big, huge thing as far as reviews, and so if you get bad reviews, you won't get that contract. So delivery drivers and stuff like that, they do an awesome job. And again, this came from China to Korea, which you think might not be that big of a deal, but the end result of that box and the condition, it's like somebody just took it off of I went to the warehouse and then put it into a truck and drove it home. You know, the only damage or wear is on the top and on the bottom of where obviously there were other K2 Pluses stacked up on top of each other. Immaculate condition and packaging. So when the people that were having problems with the feet and the feet being damaged or pushed up into there, obviously those things were pushed off and damaged. My box was not that pretty. When the box arrived, the door printer broke off the hinges. Oh, ouch, man, that hurts. Hopefully they made it right. And that's another thing we end up seeing. I think Creality is they need to take another step, and it has to go to customer service. Now, the problem with Creality is that it's a Chinese company, and the majority of your people that buy these things are from the United States, or they're from Australia, they're New Zealand, England, things like that. So the problem is when you have this huge time difference between China and whatever country that you're from, that's frustrating. And so I think what would be good is if Creality had an office somewhere in the United States and had a warehouse of where they could have parts and, you know, repair parts and so on and so forth to help out people. That would be awesome. But again, the time difference is, I think, a huge factor. So if they ever get their customer service, and what I found is use their WhatsApp address or phone number. Some people say the email has been pretty good. I don't know. Other people say they don't get real good service, but more often I've seen people will say, you know, the WhatsApp and using that is the best. Let's see, their email customer service has been pretty good for me, just not instant, but I didn't expect that. Yeah. Kind of seems like it's, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 days or something, and they get back with you is kind of what I'm seeing from other people. So yeah, their response time is not bad, you know. Bambu, there's horror stories with them, and pretty much every other 3D printing company besides Prusa needs to step up their game when it comes to customer service. But if they could get their customer service game up to speed, and if they make another machine, which they have their Pro and their other version, which is going to be coming out, they definitely need more lights in the K2 Plus. That little tiny strips they have is just woefully deficient. So, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with the machine. It's pretty good. The next thing I'm going to upgrade is what did we end up getting? Oh yes, here it is. I ended up getting this here, the Micro Swiss Flowtech. Yeah, so this is going to be the next upgrade. And I figured, you know, do I need to? No, I don't. I don't need to upgrade any of this. But I'm going to anyway, because this is supposedly going to push out a flow rate of about 35 or 40, something like that. And it's got some real good reviews on it. So I figured, well, I got the R3 bed, I might as well just get the hot end. We'll throw that in there. Of course, I'm going to re-level this. Of course, then I got to put this in there and then re-level it again anyway. So I don't know, maybe I'll just go ahead and do this. Throw that in there and then re-level it. Yeah, I might do that. We'll see how that goes. Leak-proof, cold nozzle change, high flow, all metal design. Yeah, it definitely looks like it's going to be a very nice, and I got a spare nozzle on it as well. So, and ooh, look at that. Yeah, that looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Yeah, and the sock comes off, which is so much nicer than the K2 Plus. And that's just that's a thing of beauty right there. Staying stock, $10 nozzle is good. The deal, yeah. I mean, stock is good. There's nothing wrong with stock. That is for sure. But like I said, it's like, I'm gonna do it. I might as well, you know. Like I said, it's kind of like getting a car and you have the stock stereo, which is good, you know. No problems whatsoever, but I'm just kind of doing these upgrades and see what happens. So I got time. Being retired, I got some time, I think. I'm pretty busy being retired. So the other thing that I want to end up doing, like I said, is I want to get this cabinet, base cabinet that's going to be about 130 centimeters, and it'll have storage, it'll have some shelves and stuff underneath that. Definitely look a lot nicer. And then we'll put this table up against that wall where the boxes were. And so that way I have kind of like, instead of boxes, so I'll take all the boxes and I'll put them over in the little storage behind the paint stuff. But I'll put this table over there, and that'll give me like a build area for dedicated build stuff. So that way I have more space to put more stuff, because I'm running out of space with the stuff that I have. So, does that make sense? It probably does. Oh, the woes and the pain. And then eventually I want to get a larger, because I got that little rinky-dink laser engraver. It's like a 5-watt little rinky-dink thing that a company sent me. I did a review. It was kind of cool. But I want to get a bigger one. And that's either going to be a Raleigh Lasermatic, their Galvo laser, which... it's a little expensive, like $2 or $3 grand, somewhere around there. But it has like a 12 by 24 engrave and cut area. And so I'll put that on here as well. Or I can put the table over there, and that table could be the laser engraving. Interesting. So I could have just the 3D printing stuff here. I could have the laser engraving stuff over there, and I could get the same base cabinet, which is about $300 or so, about $340, I think it is. So I could have one here and then have one there, have storage for both. I think it'd be cool. And then that's sort of close to the window to where I could do a vent. And I've got an AC infinity fan, which, because eventually, so I got this baby here, so the AC infinity fan, and this runs pretty nice, and it runs off the 220. So I got the 220 model, and I got the pipes, and I've got the like the 6-inch bent, so I'll be able to do that. And so the thinking behind that is I knew I was going to get into laser engraving more, so I got the AC Infinity, I got it on sale, and then yeah, I'd be able to have that fan and then be able to draw out and do, when I'm doing laser engraving, I'm not too worried about this here, but with the laser engraving, you're definitely going to need an exhaust fan. I got the same fan for my basement. They're really nice. Just got a month targeted ads at Grove Tents. Yeah, that's good to know. I plugged it in and tried it. Yeah, pretty quiet. Puts out a lot of air. You know, push or pull in air, whatever you want to end up doing with it. But yeah, it looks really good. It looks really good. And since we are staying in this apartment, yeah, now I can finally settle down and, you know, put a more permanent installation of all this stuff. So yeah, it'll be kind of good. I think it'll be good. I thought about maybe putting the laser engraver in that room as well. But that room gets pretty, because it's not well insulated and there's not a lot of airflow, but I don't know, maybe. Let's take a look-see. See what we got. Because the biggest thing would be this, which would need airflow, obviously. So if I back this up further back there, and then I could over here, I could end up putting another table in here, like this one, and I could have the laser engraver. So I got the laser engraver here, paint in there, and I can put the AC Infinity fan along here, and just kind of do maybe up above, whatever. And then that way just have an adapter going from the laser engraver and the paint station, and then have an evac out. So yeah, that. We were choosing a Galvo laser engraver over a July one. Yeah, possibly. Possibly. About getting a diode one. But we'll see. Hey, hold on a second. Let me. We'll go out of here. We'll go into the room. The roomed. Since we're on the phone and I want my coffee. Let me turn this on. The joys of. Come on. There we go. So anyway, I've got to finish my latte. But yeah, I was thinking about getting the diode laser, and then popped up Raleigh Lasermatic, and they have their MK whatever it is, and that looks pretty good. But then they came out with, it's a diode Galvo laser, and I don't know if you've taken a look at that, but that looks pretty promising. Let me see if I can bring that up. Raleigh ROLY, RaleighAutomation.com. And we take a look. I think I can do this. I don't know how well this will show up. Apologize. But the Raleigh Lasermatic is RaleighAutomation.com, and it looks good. It looks good. So, and let's see. So the pre-order. So there it is, 40-watt flying galvo desktop laser with optional fiber source. And so they've got a couple of different work areas. They've got a 16 by 16 inch work bed, and then they have the 24 by 16. So with a 40-watt diode, you're looking at $1,800 or $2,000. And then the 40-watt with the 20-watt fiber, you're looking at $2,800 or $3,000. So yeah, I'd be looking at that and going big or go home. So we're looking at $3,000 at that. But that looks like a cool machine. And I think that would do everything and more that I wanted to do. Look, you got the vent adapter, all of that stuff. It definitely looks like a great machine. And it's got some rotary panels, has a jig and stuff that you can do. But it's just amazing. If you watch the videos on this, it's just amazing on how fast you can process stuff and the things you can do, which is just amazing. Just pretty incredible. Cutting performance is a 25% improvement over their MK2 30-watt laser. So, yeah, Core XY system with a galvo. That is huge. Galvo on a Core XY. Who knew? That is going to be insane. And I do some coaster work. But yeah, definitely autofocus, the whole 9 yards. It definitely, and I think this would be cool for a number of things. So we got that going on. So yeah, some good stuff. Oop, new features. What do we got in the new features? 2 months, pre-order launch. Let's see if we can make this a little bit bigger. 2 new capabilities, the ability to engrave curved surfaces. Aha! And the ability to engrave large images in sections, making the process go even faster. They pushed delivery back into the fall to early November. So yeah, large image tiling and a better autofocus. It's able to take full advantage of the high acceleration up to 80,000 millimeters per second squared of the galvo. Yeah, that's the machine to get. Yeah, and you see the videos on this, it's just crazy. And for the price point is really nice too. Now there's going to be some other companies that will come out and copy this, but I think these are the first people to do it. So for images that are larger than 100 by 100 or 4 inches by 4 inches, the galvo has to call upon an XY gantry for help in scanning motion split between the two. And the combined result looks like a paintbrush motion. A faster way to complete these large-scale photo engraves is to break them up into strips or tile them and engrave each tile separately. With a typical horizontal scan, using this new tiling approach means the laser dot is always traveling left to right using the full galvo acceleration instead of potentially being slowed down by the x-axis. Yeah, it's, I mean, insane what you end up seeing. And the tiling just comes out perfect. It's just incredible. So typical tiling result, you can end up seeing there's that little separation there, but it just, yeah, this thing just looks so nice. And yeah, definitely look at that. That's just a huge one. Cameras, autofocus, dynamic focus. It's, just insane on what that thing can do. So yeah, definitely going to take a look at that. That is the one I want. But even then, their MK2 is pretty good. So, you know, if they've got a 10, 20, and a 30 watt laser, so you're looking at maybe $1,700, $1,650, or, you know, $1,850 for a 30 watt. That's not bad either. So, with rotary or without, it's a pretty good system. So they're doing a lot of stuff. Hope I'm good this year so I can get that for myself at Christmas. I hear you. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm pretty stoked about that. That looks really, really good. You know, my wife is like, why? And it's like, you already have the small laser. Well, I could do like, you know, I can do coasters and stuff like that. And she's like, why? Why more? Why more? And it's like, I need something to do. You know, I just can't be retired and sit around and watch TV and you know, I'm high maintenance. That's all it comes down to. I am high maintenance. My wife is not. And yeah, it is what it is. So yeah, that's what we got going on. In some of the stuff on here, it says the 20 watt module offers 50% uplift in cutting speeds compared to the original MK1. Yeah, oh wow, that thing just looks really, really sweet. So yeah, the Galvo one looks hot. As laser engineer, I highly recommend the fiber version. Wavelength, spot symmetry, and spot size, unbeatable. Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, I had like a little 5 watt diode laser, little cheap $200 little machine that a company sent me, which works good for coasters. I ended up doing some coasters for a client, and I made like $400. So off a free machine that I got to review, and I made like 400 coasters and or made $400 off of an order for a bunch of coasters, custom made coasters, and so it paid for itself, and I made some money off it. And then, but now that laser engraver, it's rinky dink. It's like this. And what is it, the K10 or something like that? I forget the name of it. I still got it somewhere. I think it's sitting over there. But I've noticed the power level is declining over time. So the power that I used to use to do engraving, I now have to crank it up, and then cutting. It's the laser's going out, and I cleaned the lens and all that stuff. It's just, it is what it is. But yeah, this would be cool. That definitely looks nice. Oof. So it's still coming out in November. And I wonder if I pre-ordered that, because they will ship overseas. I think I did. I don't know. Did I? It's another thing that happens when you're retired. You forget what you do. Raleigh Automation. Let's just look for, well, it's not in that email. So I've got that email. I got a few different email addresses. So I had an email address when I was doing concealed carry and firearms training stuff. I was an instructor in that. Nope, it's not on that one. And then I've got my official, theverylife@gmail.com. And did I do that? Please say I did. Raleigh. Support request. I don't think I did. Nope, I didn't. I didn't put down a pre-order. It's only $100. So maybe, and then that $100 is, but if I do that, then I have to lock myself into that. But if this comes out in November timeframe, and it's July, so August, September, October, November, that's 4 months away, I could do this. and I wonder if the price is going to go up. The pre-order. I would do the 24 by 16 extra wide, 40 watt and 20 watt fiber in a pre-order. Get rid of that one. $100. So that would come out to $3,000. And then I would have to, there's some money involved because shipping it to Korea. I don't know, we'll have to see. Anyway, I think my wife is up, so we got to get ready. Got to get ready to go to the gym. So we're going to close out this video. But thank you everybody for watching and checking out the Millennium Falcon. We'll be doing more stuff on that as if I didn't have enough to do already. Like and subscribe to the channel. That would be the best thing that you could do for me. I would appreciate that. Buy me a coffee. I'll throw that into the description box a little bit later. And if you want to do that, that's cool too. But the best thing would be like and subscribe. Have a good workout. Take care, Steve. All right, Verithus, have a good one. And everybody else, thank you for watching. And thank you for confirming that this Galvomatic from Raleigh Automation with a 40 watt diode and a 20 watt fiber is the way to go. So if you haven't looked at that, check that out. And yeah, we'll see you all in the next video, right? Cool. All right, peace. All righty, hit the stop button. Stop, am I sure? Yeah.